There we go. Back to zero. Right, we are giving up on the 5 TV cube. All right, we're headed from Powder Springs to Atlanta, South Atlanta. We're gonna call 50 Gang because I know she's busy working. See if we can interrupt her. Yeah, it's a nice home. Send these down. Come on, ring.
No, I totally get it, but right now what's reflecting on my end is 0.00. So if you want to just, yeah, because I'm looking at the billing thing. I'm in the billing system and that tells me everything. So it says that you received the paper statement of 446.66 and that went out April the 28th. However, the balance was updated on April 30th, and then the balance updated again on May 6th to 0.00. So, Miss Jody, well, I would just go ahead and disregard, shred, delete. I don't know what you got, a text, throw it out of your visual. Just don't even look at it. Get it out of there. Yes, ma'am. Anytime. Is there anything else I can help you with? All right. You enjoy your weekend. All right. You too, ma'am. Bye bye. Puppy.
I just thought you should hear my voice.
Oh, I'm so glad that you thought that because I was about to call
Just out here grinding on the empty stomach.
Oh, Lord, what are we going to eat? You know, it's Friday.
I don't know. Just checking in with y'all. I was working on a dishwasher real good. And now, while I was working on the dishwasher, I got 2 calls.
Good afternoon. Thank you for calling Patient Financial Services. My name is LaShawn. Hold on for just one moment, please. You got 2 calls.
2 calls. Now I'm headed to South Atlanta from Powder Springs. And I just want to check in right quick.
What time do you think you're going to be headed home?
Oof. I don't know. I'm going to call you from this next one because I might not be long. I don't know. She says her refrigerator's leaking, so I'll call you.
And a box came in for you. I picked it up. It's in the house.
That's a heater for refrigerator.
Oh, okay. All right. Call me and let me know so I'll know what to do as far as eating because, you know, this is the Memorial Day weekend, so I was figuring we can cook out on Saturday or Sunday or whatever that. I'm off on Monday. But for tonight. But just call me. Love you. I got to go.
All right.
This is LaShawn. I do apologize about that hold. How may I help you?
Of, starting to run up there in the top 5 and top 10 and potentially get back to victory lane because it had been a while since he had been to victory lane in the Cup Series, we should point out.
As much as, Kyle Busch emphasized in the last few interviews I did with him that he had no problem with Jim Pullman, who came in to be his crew chief after Randall Burnett went over to Trackhouse this year. It just didn't work right for them. And when he switched, we had Indy Street the last 5 races of last year, and they had some really good finishes, the only top 5 finish of the whole last season. And then Andy jumps on a couple of weeks ago, and they ran great at Texas until the last lap when Kyle got over his head with some contact on the track and did some damage to the car. And like you said, they ran great at Watkins Glen. And Kyle, I think the way he put it when we talked last week was, Andy speaks my language.
Right.
It's a little different than other people. He knows how to interpret me. And Andy Street and Kyle Busch would have won races before the season's over with.
Yeah, there's a lot of people inside the industry that feel that exact same way.
And it really sucks that we don't get to see that happen.
Right.
Just to be blunt.
Yeah.
Because it was coming.
Yeah. And again, one of the things that NASCAR has done over the years, and that has made it a very popular sport, is the stars, they perform like stars.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody loves a winner. The joke is everybody loves a winner until they win too much. But going back to Richard Petty, was a beloved figure because he was successful on the track. Then there was that whole legion of fans that got tired of Richard winning all those races and were kind of rooting against him. Same with Darrell Waltrip in the early 80s when he was winning his championships in a row. It's like, Darrell, we like you, but you're winning a little bit too much. We want to see somebody else. Dale Earnhardt comes along. Dale Earnhardt starts winning a bunch of races and winning championships, and then it's like, what? We like you, you're a winner, but let's see somebody else. And then here comes Jeff Gordon. There's a great rivalry between them. You know what I mean? And then Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch. Those were all what made NASCAR popular in those particular eras was the fact that the stars were performing like stars, and they were running up front and they were winning races. And it became sort of must-see TV. Like, what were they going to do? What was Kyle Busch going to do this week to win a race? Or, and that's was lacking there for a little bit in NASCAR racing. And I think we're starting to see some of that come back. Denny Hamlin certainly has had a great run, in the last couple of years in the new next gen car. Who's going to challenge him next? But the thing with Kyle Busch, it didn't matter what he drove. He was just successful. He won, and he won races at Hendrick Motorsports. He won a ton of races at Joe Gibbs Racing, and he won at Richard Childress Racing. Then he also won in his own truck for Kyle Busch Motorsports. Then he won when Spire bought them. Then he wins with Spire Motorsports. So he won in whatever
He was in.
piece of equipment that he got in, and that's the true test of just what a talent he was. He just won last Friday at Dover in a dominating performance in the Truck Series. Again, it speaks volumes to the talent that he was.
It was very interesting to listen to the post-race interview after that win at Dover, and certainly in hindsight, everybody picks up on it. But he says, "You never know when the last one is," and he reiterated that in the press conference in the media center. You never know when it's going to be the last one, and that's why it became more and more special to him to win trucks, Xfinity, O'Reilly, Cup. The Legends cars last summer at the summer shootout, he won some of those while he was there helping Brexton, and I think certainly as an older driver, all of them know it gets harder and harder.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the history of NASCAR racing, once a driver sort of reaches 40, that's sort of like almost the cutoff. You know what I mean? And you see the success become a little bit more difficult to achieve. So at 41 years old, you're a lot closer to the end of your career than you are to the start of your career. And you have all of this experience and you have all of this perspective, of 20 years in the business. So you understand what it takes to be successful a little bit more. And when you win, I think you appreciate it a little bit more.
Let's go and listen to a little bit of what Mike Joy had to say. I talked to Mike last night for a little bit about remembering Kyle Busch and Mike Joy is gonna, he has all kinds of stories. He's spent a lot more time up close as the anchor of NASCAR on Fox. So I wanted to pick his brain a little bit. Chit-chatted with him for a few minutes last night. Let's listen to just a few minutes of that.
Early on in his Cup career, I like to hang nicknames on people. We were encouraged to do that by Fox. Some of them, like the closer, stuck, and looks like Hurricane might stick.
Yeah.
Wild Thing, however, did not. I thought it was very apt that Kyle Busch was the second coming of Charlie Sheen in Major League. As Ricky Vaughn, the guy who was as likely to throw the ball over the backstop as he was to throw strikes and win games. But I saw in Kyle Busch the same progression that I saw in the Ricky Vaughn character as that movie, one of my favorites, developed. He never told me exactly, but I did hear from the Busch camp that probably wasn't a great nickname for a fellow who was going to win a lot of races. So he came up with his own nickname, Rowdy, and certainly lived up to it in many ways.
Rowdy, the nickname from one of my favorite movies, their Days of Thunder, and he certainly did with his rivalries on the track, his no-care attitude in some, in a lot of instances. I think a lot of people had other nicknames for him, but what to me, seeing Rowdy progress into the character that he was after he left Joe Gibbs Racing and got to RCR, which in its own had lots of character, but he changed a little bit. And I think a lot of it was the humility of knowing that he was going to have to rebrand himself or rebuild himself to get back into victory lane.
And he did, and they were headed there. He and Andy Street were a potent combination. They would right now be coming off 2 top 5s. Texas and Watkins Glen, were it not for a late race dust up in one and running out of gas on the last lap in the other. I think 2 things along the way softened Kyle Busch quite a bit. Marriage was one, and kids were the other. Spent a lot of time with him on a plane going to the Kansas race, and I thought we'd talk racing. We certainly had a lot to talk about, but instead he spent that whole flight as a doting husband and father, helping Lenny with her homework and just doting on his family. From racer first to family first, I think was the greatest progression of Kyle Busch, and that's the way I'll remember him.
Very poignant words from one of the leading voices in NASCAR racing, Mike Joy from NASCAR on Fox. I mean, you want to talk about intimate details into the inner workings of the garage area and inner workings of race teams. Mike Joy is the perfect person to comment on somebody like a Kyle Busch, because he had a front row seat, and not only did he have a front row seat, he had to talk about all of the great things that Kyle Busch was doing on the track, but he also was privy to a lot of the things that was happening in Kyle's life off the track.
How do we think this going forward affects RCR and some of the mindset? Richard Childress has got to be just devastated. You lose Dale Earnhardt, and exactly in a month or so, 25 years later, you lose the next greatest driver who's ever driven a race car besides Dale Earnhardt and a very few others, who was definitely still making lots of marks on this world. And it's over with.
Well, I mean, racers race, Chris. You know that.
I know that.
And they find it, they dig down deep. There's just something inside of them that help them push forward and go forward. Back in 2001 when Dale Earnhardt died, Richard took a couple days, and he decided, he goes, instead of having a black car, they said paint the car white. He said get the lowest number or whatever number that NASCAR would that's available, put that number on the side of the car, and we're going to Rockingham to race. Racers race. So they will race this weekend. Austin Hill will be behind the wheel of the number 8 car. Don't know what it'll look like. Several of the teams have already added a Kyle Busch memorial sticker to their vehicles in the truck race that'll happen tonight. Those stickers will be on those trucks. They'll be on the O'Reilly cars tomorrow, and then the Cup cars on Sunday. But I mean, that's that it's sort of in the DNA of all of these people associated with NASCAR racing. Is you find a way to keep going forward. You find a way to show up at the racetrack, and they feel that their greatest way to honor the legacy of someone that they have lost within the sport is to go race and go compete and put on the best show possible. And that's what the folks at RCR are going to go do.
Jim Jordan, did the Democrats fund the riots, the insurrection on January 6th, and then turn around and condemn it? Probably. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the Happy Patriots are. Jim Jordan right here with the biggest breakthrough. I think this is going somewhere, because the SPLC already funded that Charlottesville thing so that they could claim that they were fighting racism. Why wouldn't they? Here's Jim Jordan.
He's committed to come. We also sent a subpoena yesterday for documents dealing with this fraud. They called these guys field sources. Here's a key question I have too. Were any of the guys they were paying, was the Biden Justice Department paying these same guys confidential human sources? We know 26 confidential human sources were at the Capitol on January 6th. 4 went in the Capitol. They weren't authorized to do so. I want to know if any of these guys were double dipping and taking money from the government and from the Southern Poverty Law Center. That's one of the things you want to find out.
That would be another new chapter if true and if proven. Sir,
No, not if. Of course it happened. They're Democrats. They fund the spam, and then they accuse Republicans of it. So they would have paid informants to act like MAGA and we already have Christopher Wray lying about their paid informants, going, saying they didn't have any, and really they did. And we're going to get into some of this January 6th stuff. This is going to blow up all the way. Yes, it has to do with Thune, with Trump, with Paxton. It is all coming out. This is a huge story. It's so complicated, I can barely even cover it, guys. So try to keep up. But first, a word from our sponsor, as you Democrats going, look, this is radical. Of course, they had the SPLC fund the rioters and then blame Trump for insurrection and try to impeach him and blah, blah, blah. They're radicals. They're liars. They're not Americans. They see us as the enemy, and they're starting a war. Here's Senator Ron Johnson.
Again, this is a new Democrat party there. It's the radical left. It's not the same Democrat party of our parents and grandparents. JFK would probably be the most conservative Republican senator in the Republican conference. So we have to recognize what's happening right now. The radical left, which is the Democrat Party, they are at war with us. Mm-hmm. They don't view us as a political opposition. We're going to maintain this two-party structure. They want to turn America into a one-party nation. This literally is a moment of survival. It's a moment of truth. Are we going to preserve this nation? Are we going to preserve our liberties? Because the goal of the Democrat Party is to turn America into a one-party nation. They've shown us the game plan. Now, I've been saying this literally for the last year. Kamala Harris just laid it all out there.
We talk about what we need to do and think about doing around the Electoral College. We talk about the idea of Supreme Court reform, which includes expanding the Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah, they're giving you the plan. If Thune doesn't act on this by nuking the filibuster, and he's not going to nuke the filibuster, guys, the old Republican Party is going to lose this thing for you and I. You and I, our only chance right now is MAGA and the American patriot. I don't want to have, you can't impeach Thune. I mean, these people are worthless. Wouldn't bust a grape in a food fight. These people are worthless. They don't know how to make a fist. They don't know how to fight. The only fight in all of the Republican Party is Trump. And Trump may not be conservative. He's the only one who will fight for conservatism, because the conservatives are over at the country club with their martini and their beauty mark and their powdered wig, trying to play by the rules. There's a fist fight going on, and they brought a squirt gun. Here's Congressman John Rose is laying out this is what the John Thune thing is about. Okay. Trump wanted to pay the J6ers for their suffering under our government. Trump was suing the IRS for $1 billion, and he said instead that he would make a fund to pay out the J6ers. And of course, Thune had some anger issues about that, and some of the more traditional Republicans that are still like, the greatest thing that ever hurt our country was J6, which it was clearly was not. The Biden administration was more of an insurrection than anything that happened on J6. Here's Congressman John Rose. John Thune and a group of Senate Republicans caved to the Democrats today on the DHS funding. That's the Department of Homeland Security funding. They caved on it to the Democrats because they got mad at President Trump's anti-weaponization fund.
The Senate GOP is, quote, reeling that Trump is tossing the rhinos. They're really upset about this over in the establishment Senate. The Axios report this week, Trump's revenge spree stuns Senate Republicans. How are you stunned by the fact that the president is bluntly pursuing the agenda that you and I voted for? Senate Majority Leader John Thune and most of the Republican conference was reeling on Tuesday. Tom Tillis has been unbowed. Susan Collins is annoyed, she told the press. Lisa Murkowski, I'm supremely disappointed. Lindsey Graham is bitching and moaning. John Thune, he says he's not a big fan of President Trump's anti-weaponization fund. What is John Thune doing as the leader in the United States Senate? Don't you feel like this is coming to a head, ladies and gentlemen? One Trump confidant saying of President Trump's attitude towards the Senate, he's done with the Senate bullshit. And Thune and all of them, they can't deliver.
Yes, these very same senators just a few months ago fought tooth and nail to pay themselves $500,000 because the FBI spied on them. Remember, they led that vote. We're going to get into, oh man, these guys they drive me so crazy. I'm going to show you the clips on this. They voted to pay themselves because the IRS spied on them. And then when it comes to Trump wanting to pay the J6ers for the pay, I'm going to get into some of their stories. You're not going to believe what they went through. They'll protect themselves, but not the innocent, everyday Americans who are targeted by the Biden administration. This is why folks hate Washington. True.
Bitter Bill Cassidy has straight up come out against this anti-weaponization fund. Isn't it wonderful that the United States Department of Justice would settle up with Americans who've had their rights absolutely crushed by the government?
They need to get it in their big thick skulls. Here's what I mean. This is Tom Tillis freaking out over the Trump money.
It's stupid on stilts.
He says it's stupid on stilts.
What? Because it will invariably put us in a position where your taxpayer dollars and my taxpayer dollars could potentially compensate someone who assaulted a police officer, admitted their guilt, got convicted, got pardoned, and now we're going to pay them for that?
Now, that's not true. Trump can pick where the money goes. He does not have to pay the very, very few people that assaulted a police officer. So this is kind of a fake argument by Tillis. Here's Sean Davis with that same point the previous guy made. Tillis voted for a $500,000 per senator fund for senators who were illegally spied on by Joe Biden. It wasn't available to any normal Americans whose rights had been violated, just senators. But now Tillis is mad the actual American citizens might receive restitution. What a clown. Fact. Guys, if we're not careful, we're not going to lose the election. Let's go to Mark Halperin on why Trump ended up backing Paxton, because I believe this is Thune taking revenge on Trump for not backing Cornyn and backing Paxton. That's what I mean by this is passive-aggressive, wussy stuff by Thune. And yeah, I'm mad at him. You guys know I've defended him. I'm turning on him now. He broke me this week.
Then in Texas, where the president decided to endorse against John Cornyn, a lot of Republicans don't like or personally do like John Cornyn, and they don't particularly want to have to spend the money they believe will be required to make sure Paxton beats James Tallarico. Why are they concerned about that? Well, Paxton has some ethical issues. Most of you know about that. He's got a lot of baggage, but he also is going to have to struggle to win some of the establishment support that was going to be there for Cornyn.
So the establishment Republicans will back Cornyn, and they won't back Paxton. So it's going to cost more money to push Paxton over the finish line against Tallarico, who said God is binary, multiple genders. And Thune's not going to lift a finger, and they're going to blame Trump. They're going to see Trump's picks are terrible. Well, the GOP isn't going to remember, they wouldn't put money behind Kerry Lake. They don't put money behind the MAGA candidates. They put money behind a Cornyn to drag him over the finish line. This is infuriating, guys. And by the way, he's definitely making a true point about Paxton. So I like Paxton. He's not perfect, guys, by far. He's going through a divorce case right now with his wife for infidelity. She said for biblical reasons, meaning he was banging other women. And so now he's going to go through a divorce. And I mean, it's being dragged into the courts this June. Now on Discovery, you don't think that his ex-wife is going to say, like, give me all the money or I'm going to release everything about you and your affairs to the public. If you ever called her a name or did something wrong, every spouse knows what your spouse has on you. What the beloved Miss TenNapel knows about me, she could keep me from ever being hired again. And I don't mean for being unfaithful. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying Paxton was unfaithful. She can just release the dirt on him. So yeah, he's going to have, and that's right before the election this fall, guys. The Democrat Party is going to go after his ex-wife, man, and make her a billionaire. They're going to look, we're going to pay you all day to run attack ads on Paxton. Now, on the January 6er, this is one of the January 6ers. He was thrown in prison. I'm just going to read his story. I think it's fascinating. This is Pat Stedman. On January 6th, I followed the crowd into the Capitol and shouted. Police stood by the whole time, hanging out with us and sometimes directing us places. At one point near the House chambers, I was walking downstairs when a trio of some special section, Secret Service looking men started pointing guns in my direction. Confused and annoyed, I walked the other way. And when I saw a normal police officer, I asked him why they were doing that. He informed me that a protester, Ashley Babbitt, had been killed and advised me to leave the building. I walked toward the exit after a short rest on the bench that I left. I harmed nobody, damaged no property that day, and complied with all police orders. What I received for that was a pre-dawn raid at my parents' house where my 1-month postpartum wife and I were staying, the Biden's first day in office. His DOJ signed the order to arrest me 3 hours after his inauguration. In the subsequent weeks, I received death threats online and harassing phone calls, something that would be going on for the next few years. I was banned from Meta, Facebook, and PayPal. My wife and I were both debanked by PNC and banned from Airbnb. My wife was detained at the airport for hours with our newborn daughter. I was charged with 4 misdemeanors and the 1512 unconstitutional felony. It was a reign of terror, he said, and yet it was a mere foreshadowing of what they had planned for anyone else who opposed them under Kamala Harris. The country should never forget it. Here's our buddy right there. Remember, guys, we dodged a bullet under Kamala Harris. I'd probably be in prison by now. The Democrats want us divided. They hate Jews.
Now within the Republican Party, we see the split, we see the fractures within what the MAGA movement. You see the likes of Tucker Carlson, you see the likes of Candace Owens, you see the likes of Megyn Kelly, you see the likes of Steve Bannon. He's the one who coined MAGA.
MAGA.
Do you know what MAGA means? Do you know what MAGA? Do you know what MAGA? Yeah. MAGA, make America great again, right? MAGA, make Israel great again. So he said, either you're MAGA or MAGA. Choose. So he accuses people like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, who he calls Mark Tel Aviv Levin. That's what he calls him. These cracks are happening. So now, for those who continue to question,
I just wanted to catch him on video saying these cracks are happening over the Iran war. By the way, that clip was the Islamic Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood are cheering that Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson are splitting MAGA over our work against Iran and over Israel. The Muslim Brotherhood are thrilled at the divisions between us. The Democrats are thrilled at the divisions between us. This is Tim Burchett, because Thune, and Mike Johnson did backroom deals. Why even bother to vote?
Mr. Chairman, could I say something at this point, or do I need to wait?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'll yield to you.
Okay. I realize what's going on here, and I realize that, you know, when you're not sitting at the table, that you're not heard, and I realize the deal has already been cut. But I want to warn our party. You know, we're in the majority, and we're not acting like it. We'll be in the minority once again because of this kind of activity. And I'm disgusted that both sides of the aisle, that we're not allowed to, deals have been cut. And I think that's wrong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And he walked out. Tim Burchett walked out for the backroom deals cut. And finally, Eric Erickson, the never Trumper, says Trump's Senate endorsements are bearing fruit now. Just remember that, because this is Jake Sherman saying, breaking news, the Senate will go home until June, leaving the reconciliation bill unfinished. Thune just told senators in the room, all because the Department of Justice weaponization fund. Trump wanting to send money to those J6ers, which we opened with. Remember J6, probably funded by the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the Democrats. All because of that. Dirtbag Thune goes to Trump and goes, oh, you want the Save America Act passed? How about we take a break through June? So even if we come back and pass the Save America Act, it'll be too late to implement the forbiddance of illegal aliens from voting this fall. How about because you backed Thune to Trump, how about because you backed Paxton instead of Cornyn? How about I send us all on break? House is expected to follow soon. Now, that's the excuse they gave. Oh, it's too complicated to do that J6 Department of thing. No. Eric Erickson here really spills the beans. This is what's really happening. Trump's Senate endorsements are bearing fruit now. He doesn't realize this is an indictment of Thune and Mike Johnson, because Trump did not back their buddy, John Cornyn, against the people who voted for Paxton. I'm going to keep you guys posted on this stuff. I know it's very complicated. I'm sorry for how complicated it is, but they're trying to divide MAGA. Thune, I got nothing for you. These guys are opposing the voters. They're opposing MAGA. They're opposing Republicans. They're opposing the people's vote that told Cornyn after 4 wins, they go, you know what? We don't want Paxton. We don't want Paxton. I'm Doug in exile. Call